Coming up, I visit Coryton Advanced Fuels HQ in Essex.
That's the great thing about sustainable technologies.
To meet Business Development Director
Electrification, it's got its place. We knew there was a very different story to tell.
David Richardson.
So we decided, you know what, actually, let's build our own lab.
I worry we don't have enough engineers in Westminster.
We can create products that's making a tangible difference to the environment.
That's got to be good. It's got to be good.
Coryton sent me the Sustained Biofuel, which we raced in a boat and car last summer, which the car won.
On biofuel?
And what I want to do is go and find out today how and where they make it. Having parked and high-vised up,
Right then, Coryton.
David emerged.
David, how are you?
Good to see you, Max.
Good to see you. Cool. Where's that year gone?
Thank you for coming along.
No problem. That's all right. Thank you for having us.
It'll be good to show you around the plant. I hope you find it interesting and where you can see all the magic happens.
After my attempt at small talk,
How far away is home, David? Are you fairly local?
I'm not too bad.
we had a hydrocarbon catch-up.
Been a very busy last sort of 12 months since we last spoke.
I bet.
The interest in sustainable fuels has really taken off.
Brilliant. I'm pleased to hear it.
So we're keen to keep going on with that. Actually, if you look over there where you've still got one of the original chimneys, it was what was Coryton Refinery a number of years ago.
I've got to say, David, the scale of the place is quite something. You know, I was looking on Google Earth before I came and I was thinking, crikey, I hope we've got a wide enough lens for all of this.
You say a big site, it's actually in the terms of the fuels industry where we're actually very compact and very small. For what we do, which is the specialist fuels, especially when we're looking at sustainability, yeah, we are by far the biggest operation that there is at the moment.
Without blowing Essex to pieces,
If we stay in here, we're okay.
Fine, okay, no problem.
David delved into the site's surprisingly prestigious past.
So as I said, it was built by BP back in 1999-2000
Right.
to be a specialist blending facility where they could do all their R&D work, things like the Castrol GTX that was developed out this site here as well.
Right,
So,
I see.
You know, quite a household name brand. A lot of the work is still carried on to this day, so we're still actually predominantly a fossil-based business.
Then at last, we got down to business.
Right, well, David, this looks like the sort of thing I was expecting, really. Take us through it. What are we looking at here?
Well, actually, this is the beating heart of the operation. So what you've got here is there's what we call a bank of tanks. These are all of our blending vessels. And so we feed these blending vessels with a mixture of different chemistries.
Yeah.
And that's how we manufacture our fuels. A bit like making cocktails, actually.
Sure.
These are perfect size because we're really working in what at the moment is fairly niche industries.
Yeah.
Those early adopters that want to look at sustainable fuels.
Is it almost like a sort of storage of raw materials which are then blended before a barrel's sent out?
It's mixed all over.
Right.
That's the great thing about sustainable technologies is that they are interchangeable with our existing fossil chemistries.
Yeah.
So what you'll see in those tanks, some of them could be fossil,
Sure.
some of them could be the sustainable components in there.
Wow.
Likewise, what the guys are doing in the drum there, that could easily be sustainable or it could be fossil. There's a bank of tanks here that range between 10,000 litres up to 100,000 litres. We try to turn each of those tanks over, you know, once, twice, 3 times a week.
Sure.
Depending on the demand at the time. So they're split between gasoline or petrol and diesel work that we do, and there is still diesel work out there.
I guess a lot of industry relies on it, doesn't it?
It does,
I guess.
yeah.
I wanted to know where Coryton's Sustain brand had come from.
We'd been doing a lot of work around sustainable technologies.
Sure.
And when COVID hit, there was clearly a narrative around electrification that had grown up out of this shutdown of industry. Now, obviously, with all the work that we've been doing, looking into sustainable technologies, we knew there was a very different story to tell. And unfortunately, at that particular point in time, a lot of the industry was probably a little bit scared to sort of talk up.
Sure.
To say electrification isn't quite everything, it's got its place, but the story that you've got isn't quite right. We knew there was a very different story to tell. We needed to re-image ourselves. So we went through a bit of a rebranding exercise. The brand Sustain is built, you know, is born out of sustainability. The segment that really picked it up was the classic car segment. We eventually launched that in June of last year up at Bicester Heritage at the Flywheel event.
Yes. Which is, of course, where we met, David.
Where we met.
Of course.
And you know, I was thinking, where did we meet? I was talking to someone there, and I was like, I couldn't remember the event, but it was Flywheel, of course it was.
That was a good day, that. I enjoyed it.
It was a really fun day. My name's David Richardson.
As we reminisced, Guido passed.
The key thing about the infrastructure of sustainable fuels is that you can use existing infrastructure, When I talk about the infrastructure, building it up, is having these plants operating,
Sure.
you know, bolting on the technology to existing refineries, for instance,
Yeah.
and then they can use everything else that's already out there, all the forecourts, all the pipeline networks, all the trucks,
Sure.
everything that we've already got,
Yeah.
without having to disperse of all of it. They'll either go out in a vehicle like that, straight away from the tank.
Fine.
They might get moved to a finished product tank, which you can see right behind you there.
Okay.
Or they might go into drums that you might see around here.
It's much like the ones that we had arrive at the door last summer. Yeah.
Our firm belief is that internal combustion engine is not going to go anywhere in my lifetime. Fossil fuels are not going to go anywhere in my lifetime, not your lifetime. However, we wanted to start making a difference to it, and that has all had to be self-funded.
Sure.
You know, it's an expensive game looking into new technologies. You know, it is a stepping stone to where we're going. We can create products that people can use today in existing vehicles that's making a tangible difference to the environment.
That's got to be
So,
good.
yeah.
It's got to be good. Clearly you're pushing on and there's no time like the present.
We are.
I was impressed by Coryton's initiative, which was quite visible in David.
We'll go into our lab in a minute as well.
Yeah, no problem.
But as the tour continued, we got to a noisy area, which wasn't annoying.
This bank of tanks here,
Yes.
so these are what we consider to be our primary blending feedstocks.
Okay.
There's a mix of chemistries here
Yeah.
that we can blend the majority of our fuels from.
Sure. With Sustain in particular, obviously the fuel that you very kindly sent us for the boat and car race, how much of that can you make at the moment? I don't know if that's a number you necessarily know.
On paper at the moment we could produce up to probably 12 to 14 million litres a year if we needed to do that.
This was all jolly impressive, but it was time to talk science.
You still need carbon dioxide and hydrogen in Sustain Classic, but you get that from biomass.
All these technologies, the basic principle is you're recycling CO2.
Right.
That's what we're looking to do, either CO2 or CO, okay? So either carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. Carbon is an energy source. Hydrogen is an energy source. You put those together as a hydrocarbon, you've got a broad range energy there. Start off with the plant mass. If you can ferment it and turn it into an alcohol, really low energy that's needed to do that.
Yeah.
You've got your carbon and hydrogen all locked up in a liquid already.
There it is, and not an electrolyser in sight.
You've got no electrolyzers in sight. So this lab here, this was one of the first major investments that Coryton made a couple of years after it started up, actually.
Right.
We were spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds, or probably millions every year, on external laboratories. A lot of the methodology for the tests and the equipment you can see here are normally designed around a sort of a pass or fail.
Right.
And we need to know to the nth degree what's going on with it.
How much of a pass?
And what we were finding is that the external laboratories couldn't quite give us what we needed. Some of the results that were coming in simply didn't make sense to us.
We know what they say, David, if you want something doing well, do it yourself.
Do it yourself. So we did. So we decided, you know what, actually, let's build our own lab.
Yeah. Do you know, this is everything I dreamt that a fuel testing lab would be. You know, when I look around, this is all we need now is brains to walk out and we have it sorted. That'd be it.
Yeah. That would be taking little thimble-sized amounts of different samples. Effectively, it's marking out what effectively is like a DNA of the fuel.
Yeah.
And we can keep that, and then we, you know, for any other sample that comes in, we can match it up against it. So we can look at all the individual, what we call peaks, that are generated off the testing. And that happens with every single fuel that we manufacture.
Wow, I think that's seriously impressive.
Finally, I had found Coryton's secret lair. Just outside Corringham on the A13. If you get to Fobbing, you've passed it.
And they will literally be pouring, beaker into beaker, testing here first to make sure they're getting the results they want before they scale up outside.
I was going to say, you might as well make a small mistake here rather than a big one out there. That's got to be best.
Very, very, very costly. So there's not many of these types of facilities in the world.
No.
Something I have learnt is that a sustainable product needs a circular economy.
That's the key point around transparency, openness.
Yeah.
You're still going to create carbon dioxide at the point of combustion.
Sure.
The fundamental principle of these fuels is that they're recycling carbon dioxide.
A circular economy is what you're talking about, isn't it? Where your byproduct is also your feedstock.
It is, yeah.
That's
absolutely.
With that settled, the tour resumed.
All the different chemistries that aren't set in those big tanks at the back there.
Yeah.
All we have to do is look out here at our IBC park.
Right.
It seems to grow and grow and grow. working with so many companies around the globe, and they're all sending us stuff in that we can have a look at, and we go, does that work for us?
Right.
Can we put that into a formulation somewhere? Is it a motorsport fuel? Is it just a classic car?
And it was there, in the IBC park, we had a good old honest chat.
It just crossed my mind when we were doing the boat and car race. I thought, well, is there an argument to go to the government, well, where's my tax relief? Because actually, you know, this is your rules and I'm playing by them.
Yeah, so this is the perverse thing. So
Yeah.
if we look at the feedstocks that go into some of the sustainable fuels that we make, if I use that sustainable fuel in my car today, there is no tax incentive anywhere at all.
No.
If I use the same feedstock but put it into an energy station, there's lots of incentives because all of a sudden you get a green tariff from it. And therefore there is a real disconnect between utilising one particular feedstock and how it's then consumed. So you'd argue, well, surely I'm better off consuming it at a point of where the energy is needed in the internal combustion engine versus me giving it to the power station, it makes some electricity from it and it gets a load of losses as it comes down the network.
3 years on from my first fuel film, I was surprised to hear there'd been no change to sustainable fuel taxation.
I did an interview with Pat Simmons a couple of years ago.
Legislation is driving a solution rather than a process. If legislation said, let the engineers have their head and find out the best way of doing it, of course electric vehicles would be in there, but so would some of the other solutions.
We need to have holistic ideas, which it looks like you're having.
It is. We've got politicians dictating a technology that must win when it might not be the best thing. So engineers will always find the right answer.
This is
it always happens.
I worry we don't have enough engineers in Westminster, you know, and I think perhaps we could do with a few more scientists and a few more engineers.
Before things got too political, I thought I'd leave David with some useful road test feedback.
It ran bloody nicely in the car last summer, I have to say, it was very good. With the boat and car race, I really wanted to, having spoken to yourself and a lot of other people about sustainable fuels, I wanted to actually start using some, and putting it in proof. And I think, like when we met last year at Rally for the Ages, once you get it in that engine and you fire it up, suddenly everyone starts talking, and I think that's what needs to happen.
I was kindly offered a tank of Sustain Classic Super 80 for the road home. Having emptied both of Coryton's press barrels,
this is excellent.
We avoided another explosion.
Is that
it's picking up that. It shows it's working.
I was going to say, at least it works. This device we've been carrying around with us all day is a gas monitor, which in an environment like this, especially with the cameras and other electronic equipment going around, it's important we have that just to make sure there isn't any gas in the air that could be lit.
With my safety lecture delivered, it was time to say goodbye.
Well, David, thank you so much for your time today. Really nice to see you again.
No, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Have a nice, safe journey home.
Thank you, yes, and keep doing the good work, mate.
Well,
thank you.
It had been fascinating exploring Coryton HQ. My thanks go to David for his time and honest thoughts, to the team at Coryton, and of course to you for watching.
Whoa, well,
Very good, I think that's a nice little piece there. We'll wander on. All we need now is brains to walk out and we have it sorted. That's it.
yeah.